Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Allison, and today I'm going to do a brief hip opening yoga series that can be done seated. There'll be another separate standing series, the pine series, which means on your back, or kneeling series in the future. But today is a simply seated posture, just a few things for tight hips. A lot of us experience that in our day-to-day lives. And so you don't have to have any equipment. You can really do this anywhere. I have a yoga mat. In fact, I have two. I like them doubled. Um, I am also sitting on a bolster. You could sit, this is actually improvised bolster from my deck furniture. You could use a pillow, you could roll up a blanket or two or a towel. This could even be done in a hotel room with a towel or a blanket, outside on the beach with your beach towel. You could sit on the edge of a block. And part of the reason for sitting up like this is not just it's more comfortable on the sits bones for some of us, but that it kind of tilts the pelvis in an anterior fashion or forward and helps to sit up a little bit taller. And so hopefully the wind will cooperate with us here. But so let's just start by crossing the legs. If that doesn't work for you, you can have them out in front of you, but just start with a simple cross if that works. And again, just a side note, like everything that I show you in the movement process in yoga, if something is not working for you, you can either modify or simply just refrain from doing it and move on to the next thing. I try to offer modifications when I can, but if something is actually causing you pain, then absolutely do not do. There's so many different ways to move and stretch our bodies and find relief, and every body is different and every day is different. So what might work for you on one day might not feel good the other. So just honor yourself, listen to your body, and with that, we'll just go ahead and get started. So again, sitting up tall, you can pull the flesh of your butt away from the sits bones, kind of helps. You can feel this pelvic bowl to kind of balance on, and you could play around with what feels like center and maybe take some rotations. You do hands on the knees and rolling around, and just that movement in itself, for me personally, kind of starts to wake things up, especially if this is your first movement of the day. You can make the circle small or large, reverse directions, and just kind of wake up the body, waking up the hips a little bit, and kind of helps to check in with where you're at each time. So when that feels complete, let's go ahead and again sit up tall. You can build from the bottom up, pulling the belly button towards the spine and checking in with the breath. No matter what you're doing in your movement, make sure you're breathing. If you catch yourself holding your breath, go ahead and focus on that and return to that. And rolling the shoulders up, back, and down, sitting up nice and tall, stretching up through the crown of the head as if there was a string from the bottom of your pelvis, moving up through the spine, to the top of the head, drawing you upwards. The compacted lumbar area or lower back can exacerbate pain in the hips as well. And so, a lot of what we do, as I say often, is kind of hunched over or not in the most ideal posture. So when we can take the time to kind of build that foundation and reinforce that, it can feel uncomfortable or odd at first because it's not our normal posture, but the more we get used to it, the more we can strengthen this core, the more it's going to help out our spine and the rest of our body. So anyway, let's go ahead. We'll go ahead and reach the arms out and up overhead, moving the shoulders away from the ears. Again, you can do that motion of rolling the shoulders kind of back and down, stretching up through the fingertips, plugging the fingers into the sky, reaching up. If you want to gaze upwards, you can. That feels all right on your neck. And then we'll go ahead and just come forward, walking the hands, letting them fall wherever they may. I have some blocks here. If you don't have blocks, you can use books, or if you're comfortable just pressing the palms on the ground or on the mat in front of you, that works as well. You can play with the positioning of whatever you're stacking or your blocks to see how deep you want to go. And it doesn't have to be some insane stretch, just simply making it feel good. You could use the pressure of your palms, spreading your fingers wide, pressing back so you can feel that possibly in the back of your hips and in the glutes, just in this kind of counter stretch by pressing away from the earth with the hands. I'm still leaning forward, straight spine. Try not to round at this point, and just looking forward. So you don't have to like gaze this way or crank the neck or go all the way down. Just kind of looking maybe a few feet in front of your mat. Gaze could be soft. Again, just checking in with the breath. If you want to walk out a little bit deeper, if that feels good. And if your hips start to come up or off away, go ahead and back off a little bit. You want them firmly grounded to the earth. And you could stay there as long as you like. And anytime you can always tune out the sound of my voice and just stay where you are and come back to the video later if you want to pick up later and you're really enjoying where you're at, then make it your practice. This is your time. So I encourage you to follow the direction of your own body and where you're at that day. But if you're ready to come on back up to seated. And then this time, arms still up, out, overhead, reaching out as we're reaching up, plugging up back into the sky with those 10 fingers, looking up if you like. This time we'll come over to the right side. And if you want to take the block or the book to the side as you come down, so we'll come down like this. Palm presses against the earth or the block, pressing away. So you've got this nice C curve on the right side, arching, opening the front of that left shoulder, reaching up over, palm faces the earth, and really grounding down with this opposite hip here. So again, if it starts to come off, go ahead and come back down, back off a little bit out of your stretch. And again, every time you do this, it could be different. One day you could be halfway to the ground, and the other day this might feel great. So wherever you're at today, if you want to turn to look down at the ground for a nice opening in the neck in front of that shoulder as well. Really breathing into the side body, breathing into the intercostal muscles, these little muscles in between all the ribs, help us with inspiration and expiration, aka breathing. So breathing into that. And when you're ready, we'll meet in the center here. We'll go ahead and breathe and come over to the left side or the opposite side, wherever you were. Again, you can move your prop, blocks, books. Again, pressing those 5 fingers into the earth of the palm. You could have a slight bend in the elbow, reaching that right hand over, anchoring down in the right hip as well. And you can see my knee if it starts to come up again. Just having that action of grounding down on this right side while we're reaching up and over to the left. This time breathing into the left rib, breathing into this open space here. Turning the gaze down to the ground if that feels good, or else staying forward, whatever works for you. Reaching with these 5 overhead fingertips, palms towards the earth. Again, creating this nice C curve as we press away. There's a lot going on if you pay attention to the details. And you can kind of tick them off in your head as you go. Okay, anchor hips, reaching here, grounding down, take a breath. So there could be a lot of moving parts to it for such a simple movement. And when that feels complete, we'll go ahead and meet up at the center. And let's bring the hands down through heart center. We'll go ahead and lean back on the hands and let's switch the cross of the legs. This is a shorter session, so I want to balance it out. And most likely this feels like the quote unquote awkward way because it's not how you wasn't your maybe go-to. So take a moment to adjust there. And again, if you've had enough, if it's too much pressure on the knees or the ankles in that position, you can go ahead and just stretch your legs out in front of you as well. So this time we'll go ahead and reach the arms forward and up like we did in the beginning. Reaching up, looking up. We'll go a little bit quicker this time. And coming down forwards. If you want to use your blocks, maybe this time you tent your fingers instead, or your palms are flush with the ground. Again, pressing away from the earth, really feeling that in the anchoring of the hips. Maybe you feel it in the glutes, hip flexors. And this time, if you want to go ahead and round your spine, round your head, let it go. If that allows you to walk a bit further, go ahead. And again, this is just gentle movement, gentle stretching. We're not trying to go as far as you possibly can. You just want it to feel good. And as you're ready, walk back up and center, rolling the shoulders back. Let's go ahead and bring the arms up and out. And let's repeat it side to side again, coming laterally over to the right side. Again, maybe you don't want the prop of the block this time. Maybe you do, depending on how your hip feels. Grounding into that opposite hip, grounding that sits bone into the ground. Pausing here to take a breath. And coming back through center over to the opposite side. Block or prop or none. Again, pressing away, creating that counter stretch. See how that, when I press, what happens to my ribs? I'm anchoring that right hip down, reaching over with the right, breathing into that side body, breathing into that front right hip. Easing down if you like. And when you're ready, we'll come back to center. This time we're gonna reach up, up, up. Again, shoulders moving away from the ears, checking in with the sits bones. And this time we're gonna go ahead and twist to the right. So left hand, the outer side of the right knee, you can reach. Right hand plants behind you, palm flush with the earth or your mat or your bolster. If you need a block, if your arms are a little shorter like mine, I have mine on the back of my bolster. And just gentle twist. Inhaling, growing taller, exhaling, twisting a little deeper. Gaze can go over that right shoulder. Move your eyes to the corner of your right eye, all the way right. So moving your gaze as you move your spine. Again, lifting taller with each inhale and twisting with each exhale. You ready to come out of that? Go ahead and let go of that twist, bringing it back through center. Wind's gonna pick up for us. Woo. And then let's twist over to the left side. So right hand's on the outside of the left. I have it up to the right. Left hand, excuse me, behind me. Sit up nice and tall. And then go ahead and twisting, turning the neck and head and gaze over to the left. Sitting up tall with each inhale. Again, twisting maybe a little deeper with each exhale. Moving the gaze as far left as is comfortable. Exhaling completely with each exhale, maybe pulling that belly button to the spine, getting out all that old stale air and inviting in the new, fresh oxygen with each inhale. And when you're ready to come back to center, arms overhead, palms meet, and down to heart center. All right. So that's just something simple you can do anytime, anywhere, forward, backwards. We didn't really get too much into back bends because we're really dealing with the hip. Um, and then with props or without, but just a simple way to kind of warm things up. It's a nice thing to do either at the end of the day or as you start your day or before you begin exercise or whatever it is. But so that's our gentle seated hip opener for today. Again, I'm Allison. Thanks so much for joining me. Like and subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I will see you next time. Take care.